Maya Richardson glanced at her watch as she hurried through the crowded terminal at LaGuardia Airport. She had arrived with plenty of time to spare, but security lines had been unusually long this Monday morning. The soft hum of conversation and rolling luggage filled the air as she navigated around slower travelers, her carry-on bag trailing behind her. At 34, Maya had the confident stride of someone who knew airports well. As a marketing executive for a growing tech firm, business trips were part of her monthly routine. Chicago was this week's destination, an important client meeting that could finally land her the promotion she'd been working toward for the past 18 months. Just need to get there, without any drama, she muttered to herself, adjusting the strap of her leather laptop bag across her shoulder. This trip felt different. For the first time, Maya's company had approved a first-class upgrade. Budget cuts had restricted travel perks for years, but the potential contract in Chicago was significant enough to warrant the exception. She'd never flown first class before and couldn't deny feeling a flutter of excitement, despite her professional demeanor. Maya pulled out her phone and opened the Airline app, double-checking her mobile boarding pass for the third time. Gate 27B, boarding in 20 minutes. She picked up her pace slightly, weaving between families and tourists. The terminal opened up to the food court, filled with the aroma of overpriced coffee and breakfast sandwiches. Maya's stomach rumbled. She'd skipped breakfast in her rush to get to the airport, but the thought of finding food and making it to her gate in time felt too stressful. She'd just wait and enjoy whatever first-class meal they served on board. When Maya finally reached Gate 27B, passengers were already forming lines. An electronic board displayed now boarding Group A in bright letters. Perfect timing. She took a deep breath and made her way to the priority boarding lane, where only a handful of people waited. "Good morning," she said with a polite smile as she approached the gate agent, a woman in her 50s with short blonde hair and a pressed blue uniform. Maya held up her phone, displaying her mobile boarding pass. "First time in first class," she added, unable to contain a small, proud smile. The gate agent's eyes flickered over Maya's boarding pass, then up to her face. Something in her expression shifted, a subtle tightening around the mouth, a narrowing of the eyes. "One moment, please," the agent said, her tone suddenly formal. She waved over a younger colleague, a man with closely cropped hair in the same blue uniform. They spoke in hushed tones, glancing at Maya's phone screen. Maya stood awkwardly, aware of the line forming behind her. A businessman in an expensive suit checked his watch impatiently. The whispering continued for another 30 seconds before the male agent approached. "Ma'am, could you step aside for a moment?" His voice was low but firm. Maya blinked in surprise but moved to the side of the desk. "Is there a problem?" "There seems to be an issue with your boarding pass," he said, gesturing toward her phone. "An issue? I checked in online this morning without any problems," Maya replied, confusion settling in. She opened the Airline app again and zoomed in on the boarding pass. "See? First class seat 3A, everything looks correct." The male agent, whose name tag read Kevin, studied the screen with obvious skepticism. "This boarding pass doesn't look right. The formatting is off." Maya's heart began to race. "What do you mean?" "It's directly from your airline's app." By now, the first-class line was moving forward, passengers giving curious glances as they passed. Maya felt her cheeks grow warm as Kevin called over a supervisor, a tall woman with gray-streaked hair pulled into a tight bun. "We have a situation here," Kevin said, gesturing toward Maya's phone. "The boarding pass appears to be altered." The supervisor, whose name tag read Diane, took one look at Maya's phone and frowned deeply. "Ma'am, where did you get this boarding pass?" Maya took a steadying breath. "I told your colleague. I checked in through the Airline app this morning. My company booked this ticket last week. I have the confirmation email if you need to see it." Diane crossed her arms. "This doesn't match our standard format. The first-class designation appears to have been added." The accusation hung in the air between them. Maya felt as though someone had dumped ice water down her spine as she realized what was happening. They thought she was lying. They thought she had somehow faked a first-class boarding pass. "That's ridiculous," Maya said, her voice remarkably calm despite the anger beginning to simmer beneath the surface. "Why would I do that? My company paid for this ticket. You can check your system." A small crowd of passengers had paused to watch the exchange. Maya noticed a couple exchange glances and whispers. Her embarrassment deepened. "Please step aside so we can board the other passengers," Diane said, gesturing toward a row of seats near the gate. We'll need to verify this information. Maya didn't move. You can verify it right now. Just look up my reservation in your system. Maya Richardson, flying to Chicago, first class. My company booked it through our corporate travel portal. Kevin tapped something into the computer terminal while Diane continued to regard Maya with unconcealed suspicion. We'll need to see some ID as well, she added. Maya reached into her purse and produced her driver's license, handing it over with a steady hand that belied her internal turmoil. The rest of the first-class passengers had boarded by now, and the gate agents were calling Group B. This doesn't make sense, Kevin muttered, looking between the computer screen and Maya's boarding pass. The system shows a reservation, but there must be some mistake. The only mistake, Maya said evenly, is assuming I would lie about my ticket. Diane's lips pressed into a thin line. Ma'am, we deal with people trying to upgrade themselves every day. The boarding pass on your phone doesn't match our system format for first-class tickets. A cold realization washed over Maya. She glanced around at the gate area, noticing she was the only black person in the first-class line. The other passengers who had been in line with her, mostly white men in business attire, had boarded without a second glance from the gate agents. I'd like to speak to a manager, Maya said, her voice clear and firm. We're trying to help you, Kevin insisted, but we can't let someone board in first class with an invalid boarding pass. Maya took another deep breath. My boarding pass isn't invalid. My company paid for this ticket. I have every right to be on this flight in the seat that was assigned to me. She pulled out her phone again. I'm going to call our corporate travel desk right now. As Maya dialed the number, a middle-aged man in a pilot's uniform approached the desk. What's the holdup? He asked, glancing between Maya and the gate agents. This passenger's boarding pass appears to be altered, Diane explained, lowering her voice slightly. She's claiming to have a first-class ticket that doesn't match our records. The pilot looked at Maya, then at her phone screen. Have you verified the reservation in the system? Yes, but, Kevin began. And does she have a reservation? The pilot interrupted. Kevin hesitated. Yes, but the boarding pass format is irregular. Maya's call connected, and she briefly explained the situation to her company's travel coordinator, Linda. They're saying my boarding pass looks fake, she said, trying to keep her voice steady. They think I'm lying about having a first-class ticket. That's absurd, Linda replied, her voice tinny through the phone speaker. Put me on with someone there. Maya held out the phone. My company's travel coordinator would like to speak with you. Diane took the phone reluctantly. As she listened to Linda, her expression gradually shifted from suspicion to uncertainty. Meanwhile, the final boarding groups were being called. Maya felt a knot of anxiety tighten in her stomach. Would she miss her flight because of this ridiculous accusation? The pilot was still standing nearby, watching the situation unfold with increasing interest. Why don't you just check her reservation details against her ID? If she has a valid ticket in the system, what's the problem? Kevin tapped something else into the computer. His eyes widened slightly. It says here she's a platinum member? He looked up at Maya with obvious surprise. Maya hadn't mentioned her frequent flyer status. She'd earned it over years of business travel, though this particular airline wasn't her usual carrier. She simply nodded. That's right. Diane handed the phone back to Maya, her demeanor noticeably changed. There seems to have been a misunderstanding. Our system recently updated, and some mobile boarding passes have formatting issues. The explanation was clearly improvised, but Maya simply took her phone back without comment. We apologize for the inconvenience, Kevin added hastily. You're all set to board now. Maya stood there for a moment, aware of the eyes watching her. The anger and embarrassment still coursed through her, but she maintained her composure. So my boarding pass is suddenly valid now? The pilot gave Maya a knowing look before walking away toward the cockpit entrance. Diane cleared her throat uncomfortably. Again, we apologize for the confusion. We're just doing our job checking that everything is in order. Maya picked up her carry-on bag. No, you weren't just doing your job. You assumed I was lying based on how I look and what you thought I could afford. Her voice was low but clear, meant only for the gate agents to hear. Neither Diane nor Kevin could meet her eyes. Final boarding call for Flight 372 to Chicago, announced a voice over the loudspeaker. Maya walked through the jet bridge, her heart still pounding. As she approached the airplane door, a flight attendant smiled brightly. Welcome aboard. First class is to your right. Settling into the spacious seat 3A, Maya finally allowed herself to exhale fully. She placed her bags in the overhead compartment and sat down, still processing what had just happened. A flight attendant approached with a tray of orange juice and water. Something to drink before takeoff. Maya accepted a water with a polite nod, but her mind was elsewhere. What should have been an exciting first experience in first class had been tarnished by an all-too-familiar reality. As the plane began to push back from the gate, Maya pulled out her phone one last time before airplane mode, opening her notes app. "Need to document what just happened," she typed. "This isn't over." The flight attendant's voice came over the intercom announcing they had reached cruising altitude. Maya released her seatbelt and tried to relax into the leather seat, but the tension in her shoulders wouldn't let go. What should have been an enjoyable first-class experience was now overshadowed by the humiliating encounter at the gate. A different flight attendant approached with a warm smile. "Ms. Richardson, would you care for a drink before lunch service?" "Just water, please," Maya replied, surprised to hear her name. She hadn't given it to anyone on board. "Of course." The attendant returned moments later with sparkling water in a real glass. "I understand there was some confusion at the gate. On behalf of the airline, I want to personally apologize." Maya took a sip of her water, processing the fact that news of the incident had already spread to the cabin crew. "Thank you," she said simply, unsure what else to add. "If there's anything I can do to make your flight more comfortable, please let me know." The attendant's sincerity seemed genuine, but it did little to ease the knot in Maya's stomach. Once alone, Maya opened her laptop. The Chicago presentation files could use another review, but she couldn't focus. Instead, she opened a blank document and began typing, documenting every detail of what had happened while it was still fresh in her mind. The airline staff had accused her of lying. They'd questioned her in front of other passengers. They'd delayed her boarding without cause. They'd only backed down when they discovered her platinum status. As she typed, Maya's phone buzzed with a text from Linda, her company's travel coordinator. "Just checking in. Did you make your flight?" "I've already filed a complaint with the airline's corporate office," Maya typed back. "Yes, on board now. Thank you for speaking up for me." Linda's response came quickly. "Absolutely unacceptable how they treated you. Let's talk when you land. The VP of sales wants to hear what happened too." Maya hadn't expected the incident to escalate to that level within her company. Part of her wanted to downplay it, to focus on the upcoming client presentation rather than become the employee who made a scene. But another part recognized that staying silent solved nothing. She returned to her document, adding more details. The skeptical looks, the whispers between staff, the way other passengers had stared, the assumption of guilt despite evidence to the contrary. The man seated across the aisle, who had boarded first class without question, glanced over at her screen. Maya angled her laptop away, maintaining her privacy. She didn't owe explanations to strangers. Lunch service began, and Maya tried to appreciate the warm bread and carefully plated chicken dish. Under different circumstances, she would have enjoyed this luxury, maybe even taken a photo to share with friends. Now each bite tasted like cardboard. Halfway through the meal, her phone buzzed again. This time it was a notification from Twitter. Someone had tagged her in a post. Maya Rich just witnessed terrible treatment of this woman at LaGuardia Gate 27B. Airline staff publicly accused her of faking a first-class boarding pass, disgusting bias on display. Travel while black, Maya nearly choked on her water. The post was from someone named Alex Chen, with a small profile picture of an Asian American man in glasses. She didn't recognize him, but he must have been one of the passengers who witnessed the confrontation. Within minutes, the post had dozens of retweets and comments. Many shared similar stories of being questioned or challenged while traveling. Others expressed outrage. A few defended the airline, suggesting they were just doing their job. Maya hesitated, her thumb hovering over the retweet button. She had worked hard to build a professional reputation. Her social media accounts were carefully curated. Industry articles, conference photos, occasional vacation highlights. Nothing controversial. Nothing that might make clients or colleagues uncomfortable. But this was her reality. This had happened. Before she could decide, a new email notification appeared. The airline's customer service department. "Dear Ms. Richardson, we understand there was an unfortunate incident during your boarding process today. We take such matters very seriously and would like to offer our sincere apologies. Please accept 5,000 bonus miles and a $100 travel voucher for your inconvenience. We value your business and hope you will continue to choose our airline for your travel needs." Maya stared at the screen in disbelief. They thought this was worth 5,000 miles and a $100 voucher? Did they think she was just looking for freebies? She closed her eyes and took a deep breath. The corporate response was so disconnected from the human impact of what had happened. No acknowledgement of why she had been singled out. No mention of addressing the underlying bias, just a token gesture to make the problem go away. When she opened her eyes, she noticed the flight attendant who had apologized earlier was looking at her with concern. Maya managed a small smile to indicate she was fine, but she wasn't. The text from Linda, the Twitter post going viral, the insulting email response. Everything was escalating beyond Maya's control. She had a major client presentation in 3 hours, and her focus was shattered. She closed her laptop and reclined her seat slightly. Maybe if she closed her eyes for a few minutes, she could reset and get her head back in the workspace. Sleep didn't come, but a memory did. Maya's mother, a professor of African American studies, had always taught her to document everything. "Your lived experience matters," she would say. "Don't let anyone tell you what did or didn't happen to you." With renewed clarity, Maya reopened her laptop and continued typing. This wasn't about miles or vouchers. This was about accountability and change. As the flight began its descent into Chicago, Maya received another email, this one from her company's CEO, Thomas Whitaker. "Maya, Linda filled me in. This is unacceptable. Our legal team is drafting a formal complaint to the airline's executive leadership. Please keep documentation of everything. We stand with you. Focus on your presentation. We know you'll knock it out of the park. We can discuss next steps when you return." The support brought unexpected tears to Maya's eyes. She blinked them back quickly, not wanting to smudge her makeup before meeting the clients. When the plane landed, Maya gathered her belongings and prepared to deplane. The first-class cabin emptied quickly, passengers hurrying to connections or waiting cars. As Maya stepped into the jet bridge, she heard someone call her name. The pilot who had intervened at the gate was standing by the cockpit door. "Ms. Richardson? Could I have a word?" Maya approached cautiously. "Yes? I wanted to apologize again for what happened at LaGuardia." He kept his voice low, professional. "I've filed a report with our operations team. That kind of treatment is unacceptable, and I've made that clear in my statement." Maya hadn't expected this. "Thank you. I appreciate that." "I've been flying for 22 years, he continued. "I've seen this happen too many times. Things only change when people speak up." Before Maya could respond, her phone rang. It was the Chicago client confirming their meeting location. "I need to take this," she said to the pilot. "But thank you, truly." As she walked through O'Hare International Airport, Maya felt a strange mix of emotions. The humiliation was still there, simmering beneath the surface, but something else was growing alongside it. A determination that this incident wouldn't be swept under the rug. In the taxi to the client's office, Maya checked Twitter again. Alex Chen's post had thousands of retweets now. News outlets were asking for permission to use the story. The airline had issued a bland statement about investigating the matter and commitment to diversity. Maya's phone didn't stop buzzing. Friends texting to check if the viral story was about her. Colleagues expressing support. Even her mother, who rarely used social media, had somehow caught wind of what happened. "Call me after your meeting," her mother wrote. "Remember who you are." Maya put her phone on silent mode as the taxi approached the client's building. She needed to compartmentalize, to shift into professional mode for the next few hours. The Chicago skyline stretched before her, glass buildings reflecting the afternoon sun. Maya straightened her blazer and reviewed her presentation notes one last time. This day had taken an unexpected turn, but she wouldn't let it derail her. The airline staff had made assumptions about her based on her appearance. They had doubted her right to be in first class. They had tried to make her feel small, but Maya Richardson was not small, and this story was far from over. As she paid the taxi driver and walked toward the imposing office building, Maya made a decision. After her presentation, she would respond to Alex Chen's tweet. She would tell her story in her own words. No embellishment needed. The truth was powerful enough. The airline staff had been shocked when they realized their mistake. But that was nothing compared to the reckoning that was coming. Maya straightened her shoulders, took a deep breath, and pushed through the revolving door into the lobby. First, she would nail this presentation. Then, she would make sure no one else had to experience what she went through that morning. Her phone buzzed one more time as she stepped into the elevator. Another email from the airline, this one from a vice president of customer experience. Ms. Richardson, we've been made aware of the incident this morning. I would like to speak with you personally at your earliest convenience. What happened today falls far short of our standards, and we take full responsibility. Please call my direct line when you have a moment. Maya put her phone away. They could wait. Right now, she had work to do. The elevator doors opened, and she stepped out ready to face whatever came next. The conference room fell silent as Maya concluded her presentation. She placed her laser pointer on the table and smiled confidently at the row of executives from Horizon Technologies. Any questions? She asked, standing tall despite the emotional roller coaster of the past few hours. The CEO of Horizon, a woman in her 60s with silver-streaked hair, nodded appreciatively. Very thorough, Ms. Richardson. Your marketing strategy addresses exactly what we've been struggling with. Relief washed over Maya. She'd managed to compartmentalize the morning's humiliation and deliver the pitch her company was counting on. I think we're ready to move forward, the CEO continued, looking around at her team who nodded in agreement. Your firm clearly understands our vision better than the others we've met with. Handshakes and business cards were exchanged. Maya promised to send the contract details the following day. As the meeting wrapped up, the CEO pulled her aside. I hope you don't mind, but are you the woman from this morning's incident at LaGuardia? My assistant just showed me something on Twitter. Maya hesitated. She'd deliberately kept her professional and personal lives separate, but the line was blurring rapidly. Yes, she admitted. That was me. The older woman's expression softened. I've been flying first class for 30 years, and I've never once been questioned about my boarding pass. Not once. She placed a hand on Maya's arm. How you maintained your composure to deliver that fantastic presentation after such an experience. Well, it speaks volumes about your character. Thank you, Maya said, genuinely touched by the unexpected support. Horizon values partners who stand up for what's right, the CEO added. I look forward to working together. As Maya left the building, she felt a weight lifting. The client was secured. She had fulfilled her professional obligations. Now she could address the morning's incident on her own terms. In the lobby, she checked her phone. The notifications were overwhelming. Hundreds of Twitter mentions. Dozens of missed calls. Even more text messages. Alex Chen's original post had been shared over 10,000 times. Several news outlets had picked up the story, with headlines like Black Executive Accused of Faking, First-Class Ticket and Airline Faces Backlash Over, Alleged Racial Profiling Incident. Maya stepped outside and took a deep breath of the crisp Chicago air. She needed somewhere quiet to think. Spotting a small park across the street, she made her way to an empty bench and sat down. First, she called her mother. Baby, are you okay? Her mother's voice was steady but concerned. I'm fine, Mom, just finished the client meeting. They signed with us. That's wonderful, but I'm more concerned about you right now. I've seen what's happening online, Maya sighed. It's gotten bigger than I expected. I haven't even responded publicly yet. You know this isn't just about you anymore, right? Her mother's tone was gentle but firm. When these things happen and no one speaks up, nothing changes. But you have a platform now. Maya thought about all the times she'd stayed quiet, all the microaggressions she'd endured with a polite smile, all the times she'd been told she was overreacting or making everything about race. I know, Mom, I'm going to say something. I just need to do it right. After promising to call again that evening, Maya ended the call and opened Twitter. She tapped out a simple message. I am the woman from this morning's incident at LaGuardia. Thank you, or Alex Chen, for speaking up when you saw something wrong. I'm taking some time to process everything, but I will share my experience soon. This happens too often and it needs to stop. She hit send before she could second-guess herself. Within seconds, her phone began buzzing with notifications. Maya turned it to silent mode again and slipped it into her purse. She needed space to think about her next steps. As she sat watching people hurry through the park, Maya's phone rang with a call from an unknown number. Normally she would let it go to voicemail, but something told her to answer. Hello, this is Maya Richardson. Ms. Richardson, this is Patricia Williams, Executive Vice President at National Airways. The woman's voice was practiced, smooth. I want to personally apologize for your experience this morning. Maya straightened her posture even though the call wasn't a video chat. I appreciate that, Ms. Williams. We've placed the gate agents involved on administrative leave pending a full investigation. This behavior does not reflect our company values, and we're taking it extremely seriously. The corporate language felt hollow to Maya. May I ask what prompted this investigation? Was it my complaint? The social media attention? Or would this have happened if I had quietly accepted being humiliated at your gate? A pause. I understand your frustration. With all due respect, Maya interrupted, I don't think you do. Your staff publicly accused me of lying. They questioned my right to be in first class. And they only backed down when they realized I was a platinum member, not because they recognized their bias. Another pause. Longer this time. You're right. And that's exactly why we need to address this systematically, not just as an isolated incident. Maya hadn't expected this response. I'm listening. We'd like to invite you to speak with our leadership team and our diversity and inclusion officers. Not for publicity, but because we need to do better. Your perspective would be invaluable. Maya considered the offer. I'll think about it. But first, I'd like to know what specific actions you're taking beyond administrative leave for the employees involved. We're implementing immediate additional training for all customer-facing staff. We're also reviewing our boarding procedures to ensure consistency, and we're establishing an independent review board to assess complaints of discrimination. The measures sounded promising, but Maya had heard similar promises before. Send me the details in writing. I'll get back to you. After ending the call, Maya checked the time. Her return flight wasn't until the following morning. The thought of boarding another plane made her stomach clench, but she pushed the feeling aside. Her phone buzzed with a text from Linda, her company's travel coordinator. CEO and legal team want to conference call. Available now? Maya texted back. Yes, give me 5 minutes to get to my hotel. The short walk gave Maya time to gather her thoughts. By the time she reached her hotel room, she had made a decision. This wasn't just about getting an apology or compensation. This was about ensuring lasting change. The conference call included Thomas Whitaker, her CEO, Gabrielle Patel, the company's chief legal officer, and Linda from Travel Services. Maya, first of all, congratulations on landing the Horizon account, Thomas began. Especially under these circumstances, that's truly impressive. Thank you, Maya replied, sitting on the edge of the hotel bed. It means a lot to have the company's support. Gabrielle spoke next. We've drafted a formal complaint to National Airways executive leadership. Before we send it, we wanted your input. This is your experience, and you should guide how we proceed. Maya appreciated the consideration. I've just spoken with their executive VP. They're proposing some policy changes and want me to consult with their leadership team. That's a positive sign, Gabrielle noted. But we should be cautious. Companies often make promises in the heat of public relations crises that they don't follow through on. Maya nodded, though no one could see her over the phone. Exactly my concern. That's why I'd like to propose something more substantial. She outlined her thoughts. A formal agreement with the airline to implement specific changes, regular progress reports, and consequences if milestones weren't met. I don't just want sensitivity training that employees roll their eyes through, Maya explained. I want measurable outcomes, fewer incidents, more diverse hiring, better response protocols when incidents do occur. There was a moment of silence before Thomas spoke. That's ambitious, is it? Maya challenged. Or is it just what should have happened years ago? I think it's brilliant, Gabrielle cut in, and legally enforceable if we structure it correctly. The airline is vulnerable right now with all the public attention. They'll be motivated to agree to terms they might otherwise resist. Thomas cleared his throat. Maya, you were hired for your marketing expertise, which you've demonstrated impressively. But I'm seeing leadership qualities that go beyond your current role. Would you be interested in heading up this initiative? We could adjust your responsibilities to make room for it. Maya hadn't expected this turn. You mean formally working with the airline on their diversity practices? Beyond just resolving my complaint? Exactly. With proper compensation and title adjustment, of course. The offer was tempting. Maya had always been passionate about creating more inclusive workplaces, but something didn't sit right. I appreciate the offer, but I think my focus should remain on marketing. What happened today isn't my burden to fix. It's the airline's responsibility. Of course, Thomas backtracked. I didn't mean to imply. I know, Maya said gently. And I'm grateful for the opportunity. But I think the most powerful statement I can make is to excel in my current role while holding the airline accountable as a customer. Not as a consultant they can say they've hired to solve their problem. The call wrapped up with a plan for the legal team to draft terms for the airline. As Maya hung up, she felt a renewed sense of purpose. She wasn't going to let this incident define her, but she also wasn't going to let it be forgotten. Opening her laptop, she began typing a public statement to share her experience in her own words. No corporate language, no sugarcoating, just the truth of what happened and what needed to change. By the time she finished writing, the sun had set over Chicago. Maya ordered room service and checked her social media one last time before disconnecting for the evening. Alex Chen had responded to her tweet. Thank you for your courage. What I witnessed today was wrong and I should have done more than just tweet about it. We all need to speak up louder when we see injustice. Maya smiled slightly. Maybe change was possible, one person at a time. Maya woke to the soft chime of her hotel room phone. Blinking away sleep, she reached for the receiver. Ms. Richardson? This is the front desk. There's someone here from National Airways asking to see you. Maya glanced at the bedside clock. 7:15 a.m. Her return flight wasn't until 11:30. Did they give a name? She asked, sitting up and switching on the lamp. Yes, a Mr. Reynolds. He says he's the regional director of customer experience. Maya hesitated. She hadn't agreed to any meetings. Please tell him I'm not available without a scheduled appointment. After hanging up, Maya checked her phone. The notifications had multiplied overnight. Her brief Twitter statement had been shared more than 20,000 times. Several civil rights organizations had reached out offering support. 3 morning news shows had sent interview requests. Most surprising was an email from an address she didn't recognize, with the subject line, "What really happened?" from someone who knows. Maya opened it cautiously. Ms. Richardson, I work in the IT department at National Airways. After seeing your story, I looked into what happened with your boarding pass. There was nothing wrong with your pass or your reservation. The system recently flagged first-class mobile boarding passes with a new visual indicator that some gate staff weren't properly trained to recognize. This wasn't your fault in any way. More importantly, I've reviewed the notes added to your passenger profile. Gate staff specifically questioned your reservation because passenger did not match typical first-class demographic. This is documented in our system. I risk my job sending this, but you deserve to know. The company is aware of these notes but hasn't acknowledged them publicly. A concerned employee. Maya read the email twice, her heart pounding. This wasn't just her perception. There was written evidence of profiling in the airline's own system. She took a screenshot of the email and sent it to Gabrielle, the company's legal officer, with a brief message. Just received this. Can we verify? As Maya showered and dressed, she considered her next steps. The airline representative waiting downstairs suggested they were taking the situation seriously, but this email painted a different picture. Her phone rang as she was applying her makeup. It was Gabriel. Maya, I got your message. This is significant if we can verify it. Our IT security team says the email header information appears authentic. It came from inside their corporate network. So what now? Maya asked, sitting on the edge of the bed. Now we have leverage, but we need to be careful about how we use this information without endangering the whistleblower. They agreed on a strategy. Maya would meet with the airline representative but wouldn't reveal what she knew yet. 40 minutes later, Maya entered the hotel's small conference room where Mr. Reynolds was waiting. He was a tall man with graying temples and an expensive suit. Ms. Richardson, thank you for meeting with me. He extended his hand. I'm David Reynolds, Regional Director of Customer Experience for National Airways. Maya shook his hand firmly. I wasn't expecting a personal visit. We're taking this matter extremely seriously. He gestured to the chairs. May we sit? Maya nodded, taking a seat across the table. She placed her phone between them, screen up. I hope you don't mind if I record our conversation. Reynolds hesitated briefly. Not at all. Transparency is important to us. Maya tapped the record button. So, Mr. Reynolds, why exactly are you here? First, to offer the airline's deepest apologies for your experience yesterday. What happened at the gate was completely unacceptable. And what exactly do you understand happened? Maya asked, maintaining eye contact. Reynolds shifted slightly. Our gate agents questioned the validity of your first-class boarding pass in a manner that was inappropriate and unprofessional. Is that all? Maya pressed another shift. They showed poor judgment and failed to follow proper verification protocols. Maya leaned forward. Mr. Reynolds, let's be clear. Your gate agents didn't just question my boarding pass. They accused me of lying. They suggested I had somehow faked a first-class ticket. They did this publicly in front of other passengers. And they did not treat other first-class passengers who were not black the same way. Reynolds nodded slowly. You're right. And there's no excuse for that behavior. Actually, Maya said evenly, there is an explanation even if there's no excuse. Your agent saw a black woman in the first-class line and assumed I didn't belong there. Ms. Richardson, I want to assure you that National Airways does not tolerate discrimination of any kind. Then how do you explain the notes in your system? Reynolds blinked. I'm sorry? The notes added to my passenger profile stating that I was questioned because I did not match typical first-class demographic. Those notes, Mr. Reynolds. The color drained from his face. I'm not aware of any such notes. That's interesting because someone in your IT department is. Someone who was concerned enough about the truth being hidden that they risked their job to let me know. Reynolds reached for the water glass in front of him. If such notes exist, that language is completely inappropriate and against our policies. The question isn't whether they exist. The question is what you're going to do about the culture that made someone think it was acceptable to write that in an official record. The room fell silent for a moment. Reynolds seemed to be recalculating his approach. Ms. Richardson, would you be willing to share this information with me so we can investigate? Maya considered the request. I'll share it with your legal team once my lawyer has established protection for the person who sent it. They shouldn't face retaliation for exposing the truth. Reynolds nodded. That's fair, he paused. I came here today with an offer of compensation. I'm not interested in miles or vouchers, Maya interrupted. I understand. That's why I'm authorized to offer you $50,000 in compensation for your experience, along with a lifetime upgrade to first class on any flight where space is available. Maya tried not to show her surprise at the figure. That's generous, but it addresses the symptom, not the cause. We're also implementing the policy changes I believe were discussed with our executive VP, which would have happened without the settlement offer. So what exactly am I being paid for? Reynolds hesitated. For your discretion. And there it was. The real purpose of his visit. You want me to sign an NDA. To keep quiet about what happened. We would prefer to resolve this matter privately, yes. Maya leaned back in her chair. Mr. Reynolds, do you know how many messages I've received since yesterday? Hundreds of people sharing similar experiences. People who didn't have platinum status to save them. People who didn't have a company standing behind them. People who just had to accept being humiliated because they didn't have the platform I do. She stood up. I won't be signing anything today. Please have your legal team contact mine. Reynolds stood as well, looking genuinely troubled. Ms. Richardson, I hope you understand that I personally want to make this right. Then start by telling the truth. Check your system. Find those notes, and instead of offering me money to be quiet, put those funds toward making sure this doesn't happen to anyone else. After Reynolds left, Maya called her CEO to update him on the meeting and the email she'd received. They offered $50,000 in lifetime upgrades, she explained. Thomas whistled. That's substantial. Are you considering it? Not with an NDA attached. The money isn't the point. What is the point then? He asked, not unkindly. Maya thought about it. Accountability. Real change. Not just for people with corporate backing or social media attention, but for everyone. I support that, Thomas said, but be prepared. They're going to push hard for an NDA. After hanging up, Maya checked the time. She needed to head to the airport soon for her return flight. As she packed her belongings, her phone buzzed with a new email from National Airways. This one was from Patricia Williams, the executive VP she'd spoken with yesterday. Ms. Richardson, I've been made aware of the internal notes on your passenger profile. I was not informed of these when we spoke yesterday, and for that I sincerely apologize. These notes are completely unacceptable and violate everything we stand for as a company. The employee who wrote them has been identified and suspended pending termination proceedings. I've also initiated a comprehensive audit of our passenger records to determine if this is a pattern or an isolated incident. Preliminary findings suggest it is not isolated. I respect your decision not to accept our initial offer. Instead, I would like to invite you to meet with our entire executive leadership team in New York next week to discuss meaningful changes to our policies and culture. No NDAs. No conditions. Just an honest conversation about how we can do better. Regardless of your decision, I want to thank you for forcing us to confront an uncomfortable truth about our company. Sincerely, Patricia Williams, Executive Vice President, National Airways. Maya read the email twice. This was different from the corporate language she'd heard before. This felt genuine. As she headed to the airport for her return flight, Maya felt a shift. What had started as a humiliating experience was turning into something potentially transformative. Not just for her, but for countless others who had faced similar treatment without the resources to fight back. The airline had been shocked by their mistake. But the real revelation wasn't just about a boarding pass. It was about the power of standing firm in your truth, even when every instinct tells you to stay quiet and move on. Maya's phone buzzed with a text from her mother. Proud of you, baby. Always stand your ground. 1 month later, Maya stood in front of the floor-to-ceiling windows at National Airways headquarters in New York, looking out at the skyline while waiting for the meeting to begin. Behind her, executives and board members filed into the conference room, their hushed conversations creating a nervous energy. Maya smoothed her blazer and checked her watch. The past 4 weeks had been a whirlwind. Her story had gone from social media to mainstream news, sparking a national conversation about racial profiling in the travel industry. Other passengers had come forward with similar experiences, not just with National Airways but across multiple airlines. What had started as one humiliating moment at an airport gate had evolved into a movement. Ms. Richardson, we're ready to begin. Patricia Williams, the executive VP, gestured toward the head of the table where a seat had been left open for Maya. Taking her place, Maya looked around at the faces watching her. The company's CEO, legal team, head of operations, and chief diversity officer were all present. This wasn't just a public relations exercise. The entire leadership team was here. The CEO, an older man with salt and pepper hair, spoke first. Thank you for joining us today, Ms. Richardson. I want to start by personally apologizing for your experience. It represents a failure at every level of our organization, and we're committed to making it right. Maya nodded. I appreciate that. But I'm more interested in hearing about concrete changes than apologies at this point. Of course. He gestured to Patricia Williams, who opened a folder in front of her. As promised, we've conducted a full audit of our passenger records and gate agent notes over the past year. Patricia began. What we found was troubling. Your incident wasn't isolated. We identified 152 cases where passengers were flagged or questioned based on comments related to their appearance, rather than any legitimate security or ticket concerns. Maya wasn't surprised, but hearing the number still stung. And the demographic breakdown? Patricia slid a document across the table. 87% were people of color. 63% were black passengers specifically. The room fell silent as the statistics sank in. This wasn't about one bad day or a few undertrained employees. The data showed a clear pattern. We've prepared a comprehensive action plan, Patricia continued, passing out bound reports to everyone at the table. It includes mandatory bias training, but goes far beyond that. We're changing our entire boarding process to reduce individual discretion that might allow bias to affect decisions. We're implementing anonymous passenger surveys specifically focused on equitable treatment, and we're creating a new executive position focused solely on passenger equity, with direct reporting to the CEO. Maya flipped through the report, impressed by its thoroughness despite her lingering skepticism. This is substantial, but how will you ensure these changes stick once the media attention fades? The CEO leaned forward. That's where we need your help. We'd like to establish an independent oversight committee to hold us accountable, with quarterly public reporting on our progress. We'd like you to chair this committee. Maya hadn't expected this. I'm a marketing executive, not a civil rights attorney. Exactly, he replied. You understand corporate realities while having personal experience with the issue. You can speak both languages, business and human impact. The committee would include civil rights experts, but we need someone who can translate between those worlds. And if the committee finds you're not making sufficient progress, the reports will be public. Our reputation and bottom line would suffer. Additionally, we're tying executive compensation to these metrics, including mine. Maya considered the proposal. She'd come to this meeting expecting corporate platitudes and token gestures. Instead, they were putting real accountability mechanisms in place and asking her to help ensure they followed through. I'll need to review the details with my attorney, but I'm tentatively interested, she said, with one condition. Name it, the CEO said. The airline employee who sent me that email exposing the discriminatory notes, they need protection, not punishment. The executives exchanged glances. The CEO nodded. We've already identified that person. Instead of termination, they've been offered a position on our new passenger equity team. We need more people willing to speak truth, not fewer. After 2 more hours of discussion, reviewing timelines and specifics, the meeting concluded. Maya shook hands with each executive, ending with Patricia Williams. This won't be easy, Patricia said quietly. Change never is. But it's necessary. It's also overdue, Maya replied. But I'm cautiously optimistic. Outside the building, Maya's phone buzzed with a message from Thomas, her CEO. How did it go? She typed back, better than expected. Real change is coming. We'll fill you in when I'm back. As Maya walked through the bustling streets of New York, she felt lighter somehow. The incident would always be part of her story, but it no longer defined her. She had transformed it into something constructive, not just for herself, but for others who might never know her name but would benefit from the changes she helped create. 6 months later, Maya stood at a podium in a hotel ballroom, addressing the annual conference of the National Association of Travel Executives. Behind her, a screen displayed the title of her presentation, From Incident to Impact, Creating Lasting Change in Corporate Culture. When I was publicly accused of lying about my boarding pass 6 months ago, I had 2 choices, she began. I could accept the airline's apology and compensation offer, sign an NDA and move on with my life, or I could use that painful moment to push for systemic change. The audience of travel industry professionals listened intently. I chose the harder path, and today I want to share what we've learned through this process. Maya clicked to her next slide, which showed comparative data from National Airways passenger experience surveys. In just 6 months, reports of discriminatory treatment have decreased by 62%. Passenger satisfaction scores among minority travelers have increased by 41%. Employee reports of witnessing bias have increased, which may sound negative, but actually reflects a healthier culture where people feel safe reporting problems. She moved through her presentation, sharing specific policy changes that had proven most effective. As she concluded, she displayed a final slide with a simple message: accountability creates change. The easiest thing for National Airways would have been to pay me off and hide the problem. The easiest thing for me would have been to take the money and stay quiet. But the easy path rarely leads to meaningful change. The applause was immediate and sustained. As Maya left the stage, several industry executives approached her, asking if she would consult with their companies on similar initiatives. Later that evening, Maya sat in her hotel room, video chatting with her mother. I saw clips of your speech online, her mother said proudly. You're making a real difference. I hope so, Maya replied. 3 other airlines have adopted similar policy changes. The independent committee is working better than I expected. It feels like actual progress. And how about at work? How's the new position? Maya smiled. After her handling of the airline incident, her company had promoted her to Vice President of Marketing and Corporate Responsibility, a newly created role that our